Hello guys and welcome to Scratching the Gaming Itch. Today we have a Guild Wars 2 video trying to help out the free-to-play players in getting the best armor in the simplest way possible. This does not necessarily mean that it is the fastest way, but it's the way that I found to get endgame armor just the easiest as a free-to-play player. This means that you can't really use the trading system, so you can't just buy your way in simply, but you can use these resources. So here in World versus World, you can use tokens and gold to get full exotic armor. And that is a really simple thing that you can do if you're trying to push end game right at the end when you hit level 80 and you're like, okay, I actually want to push gear as my next goal. Then you should look no further than World v World to get your first set of exotic armor. Now, of course, the true simplest way is if you have spent money in the game, you would go to the trading post and you would just buy an exotic gear set. But here you can see in action, I bought an exotic piece of gear because some of my aquatic gear was not exotic yet, and I could simply equip the gear and put on the stats that I wanted. I can do the same thing here. I'm using my tokens and some silver to buy an exotic aquatic weapon. I can then equip that exotic aquatic weapon and pick its stats in a way that I want to play the game. In this case, the Berserker stats. You can just choose from those stats. Maybe you're going off of a build or something like that to have an end game build that you want in the simplest way possible. So how to get these tokens, you'll actually be going around the map. You can see on the screen there's a little tent icon there. The tent icon, I would say those kind of camps from the enemy are the easiest to solo. So ultimately in World v World, participation is the best way to get tokens. You can just go around the map, capture enemy team objectives to receive these tokens. Now, I will admit, if you do not have exotic gear in World v World, you are going to die to enemy players. That's inevitable. It's just something you're going to have to accept. But ultimately, you can solo these camps. It may be more difficult without exotic or ascended gear, but it's still very doable as a solo player. So you go into the camp, you clear out the enemies, and you just capture it. You can also capture sentries around the map easily as a solo player, and you can kill the Daliaks, or these kind of like pack mules, as they go around the map as well pretty easily. One other tip as you're grinding out tokens and just generally receiving them as you play over time, where you get crates that you will always click the tokens for so that you can continue to collect them. You can go on different World v World maps looking for a commander tag. Now, the commander tag is good because you will run into a group of players who might just be zerging different areas. Now, zerging those areas is helpful for you as you'll be able to participate, maybe even get some player versus player kills, and also, of course, continue to grind those tokens. That's the whole idea behind the exotic gear. It's pretty simple overall. It's the simplest way, the easiest way that I found. And again, I'm not an expert. Maybe there are other ways that you can grind out this exotic gear, but this was the way that I found to be the fastest and easiest for a free-to-play player at this time, at least in my experience. So exotic gear is its own beast that I've found, especially for a free-to-play player. The first place I will recommend anyone to go, I almost have to assume it's the fastest way, is the Wizard's Vault. You can do the dailies and the weeklies to get points to get an ascended weapon and 3 ascended armor pieces, which is a pretty nice start to collecting your ascended gear. And of course you can pick the stats just like before, and there are a lot of useful things in the Wizard's Vault. If you've been ignoring it as a free-to-play player in the end game, you should probably stop ignoring it. It can give you a good source of laurels. It might even be the only source as far as I know, which can lead to even more ascended gear. As I'm showing on the screen now, there's a vendor in the World v World where if you have tokens and a lesser amount of laurels, you can actually purchase even ascended gear here in World v World. You also have laurels and ectoplasms, which can be used to get certain ascended gears as well. Those are pretty simple to get. You just have to salvage yellow or exotic gear, maybe even other ascended gear, but maybe don't do that. But you salvage this gear and sometimes you get globs of ectoplasm, which is what you need for some of that ascended gear there. So that kind of gets you started on ascended gear. Now there are other places that are seemingly okay for ascended gear, but this is where it gets kind of complicated. So I'm going to talk about some different ways to get ascended gear, and then I'm going to tell you what I believe to be the simplest way for a free-to-play player to get ascended gear. I don't know if it's the fastest way, but it's the way I understand the most, and the way that is probably most accessible for most free-to-play players. So first you have PvP. So here you have these ascended shards of glory and different currencies that you need to get all kinds of ascended gear here, weapons, other armors. But the problem I found is I think I need to have rewards from the track, which are extremely slow, and I need to be able to participate in ranked, which requires a rank of 20 or a level of 20 in PvP, which I don't even have yet. I'm at level 12 right now, almost 13, at least when it comes to the time when I made this video. And I found that was going to be quite a time sink to get even one piece of ascended gear. I'm still not even sure how to really get those resources as a new player. There just seems to be a lot going on. Now, another way is fractals, and I really hit up fractals during the fractal event that was going on, and during that, at the end of the event, if you did all the achievements, you got an ascended piece of gear, which was nice. But there's also ways to get ascended gear here. Not necessarily all ascended gear. Like weapons I couldn't find, or some armor pieces I couldn't find. But you can go through and see for yourself how you just need some pristine fractal relics for some of these ascended gears, which during the fractal event were easy to get. I don't know about outside of the fractal event. I didn't feel like I had seen them so much until the fractal event had happened. I do know that the higher you get, the better the gear is. But again, there's still just those currencies that you need. And I understand fractal currencies a little more, but it still feels on the complicated end of things. And there you saw a laurel vendor. Yes, you can get some exotic gear with just a laurel and no other resources. So if you don't want to take the time to grind World v World, that is one of the options for you, especially when it comes to ascended gear. Now, for what I found to be the simplest way to get any and all pieces of ascended gear, and I'm not sure if this is the fastest way, but it seems to be the easiest, at least from my experience and going around testing different things. This has been the least complicated as a free-to-play player that you actually have the option to do. So you go into Lion's Arch Aerodrome, and there's a merchant here who will be selling ascended armor and weapons for magnetite shards. You can see all you need is those shards and gold, and that's it. I mean, that is a pretty simple system to get ascended weapons, armor, all types of ascended gear. It's all here, and that is great for me, right? That is something I can understand. All you need to do to grind magnetite shards, especially as a free-to-play player, is you can go to raids training. I don't know about raids experience, if you can do that as a free-to-play player or not, but I've been able to experience it once I bought an expansion. But in here you can click find a quick play group, where you will be extremely buffed in the raid, and it will start finding players for you. As soon as it hits 10, it'll either pull you directly into the raid, or you can right click one of the squad members that are in the raid and join them at a later time if for some reason it didn't just teleport you. Now, sometimes you'll have to wait a bit, so you might want to do some map completion or other things as you wait, rather than just sitting in the aerodome. It can get pretty boring pretty fast. Sometimes you will have to wait longer than others, especially depending on the time of day that you queue up. And just know that this is pugs. You might not get a good group who knows what they're doing in raids. You yourself might not even know what you're doing in the raids. Just know it's going to take time, and that some raids are going to be difficult for you, and some raids are going to be very easy. And that's just going to be part of the experience. Honestly, because of the quick play raids, when I started doing some of the normal daily raids without all the buffs, I knew all the mechanics and was pretty prepared for the fight. So here we, in quick play, made it to the raid. This used to be a strike, I believe, but I didn't play the game when it was. This is the boss Bone Skinner. He's pretty simple, but you're going to see that this group, we end up struggling pretty hard against this boss. The whole idea is you stack on each other, and you just move left in a circle around the boss when he raises his right arm, and summon some hands that come out and really damage you if you are in them. And you can see if you don't stack, the hands get pretty out of control, and that's kind of where this group really struggles with this boss. And when the group struggles, I struggle. I definitely probably could have done some things better, like I didn't dodge that, but you just have to be aware. You're learning raids, so is everyone else, and eventually you're gonna figure them out, and eventually you'll get groups that will just absolutely wipe this boss, and you'll get groups that really struggle with this boss, and there's just all kinds of variety. And I feel like what happens to me is I just start trying to res people, and it doesn't go very well for me while fighting the boss. We actually do end up winning this encounter, which was kind of mind-blowing to me, because I felt pretty stuck and like we weren't gonna make it. But res your teammates, it's always nice. And the more people who can do DPS to the boss, the better it's gonna be. Even if it doesn't feel that way, you have to try, right? Have some faith in your teammates that they're gonna be able to do something, and hopefully they won't let you down. Right, so that's just kind of the whole thing here. Just know you're gonna be fighting bosses that can be pretty difficult to some people, but that's it. Like, after that, really, you get to just farm these bosses. You get used to them, you get good or bad groups, but at the end, you kill the boss, you get magnetite shards, which is the whole reason you're here. And with that, you just keep grinding these raids, and eventually you will be full ascended. I am not saying this is going to be the fastest route. You may even get bored of raiding, and that's totally okay. There are other ways to get ascended items. maybe you will even just do story and mix in some raids here and there. That's the beauty of the game. But I'm just here trying to show some free-to-play players the simplest way to get full ascended armor as far as I am aware. If you know of a better, faster, or even simpler way than this to get full ascended armor, let me know in the comments below. I just haven't seen any videos where it's felt like getting ascended armor is simple. So I just wanted to put one out there so people were aware and maybe even get more people raiding as they hit level 80, because I love the raids. They're actually a lot of fun. So I hope to see you out there in Tyria. It's been a great time in game, and hopefully this video will help you somehow. See you in the next one. Bye.